Let's discuss the attacks on American diplomatic missions with Benjamin Schett, who is an independent global affairs researcher, joining us right now. Now, Mr. Schett, Ambassador Stevens was responsible for building Washington's relations with the Libyan post-revolution interim leadership. Does this indicate that the people behind the attack are of a very different mindset to Libya's current rulers?
Not necessarily. First of all, I would say that I would talk about rulers on the territory of Libya, because Libya is more or less ceasing to exist as a state right now due to U.S. policy. And the United States supported militant extremist Islamic groups in order to topple the government of Muammar Gaddafi last year. And one example is the Libyan Islamic fighting group. And it's according to Washington Post, a terrorist organization with links to Al-Qaeda. Nevertheless, already in 1996, they received support from British Secret Service MI6 in order to kill Gaddafi, which at that time did not work out, as we know. Even after 9/11 in 2001, they still got support from Western powers. In any case, during the so-called uprising in Libya last year and the NATO bombing campaign, they got support from the US and the Saudi allies and so on. So obviously the United States never stopped supporting militant Islamic group as long as it serves their geopolitical interests.
What does this attack say about the authorities' grip on security in post-Gaddafi Libya?
It shows that Libya is part of a broader balkanization of the Middle East and states in Central Asia, due to which is a direct result of U.S. policy. We saw what happened in Afghanistan, or what's still happening there in Iraq after U.S. invasion, like the clashes between Sunni and Shiites, and the Kurdish North is basically independent, we can say. We see what's happening right now in Syria, where the sectarian violence is being supported from the outside, from the Gulf states, from the US, from France, against the secular government of Bashar al-Assad. And it's what's happening in Libya, where all these different militias that received support in order to fight against Gaddafi now are turning against each other and push for a tribalization of Libya.
Right, Mr. Schett, it's believed the attacks were a response to this U.S. film deemed offensive to Islam, but could it also be a side effect of U.S. foreign policy in the region?
Definitely. I mean, the whole story with like clash of civilizations and Christianity against Islam, Islam against Christianity. All these stories, they do not show the real picture. The real picture is the majority of Muslims are as peaceful as the majority of Christians, Jews, or whoever. Certain militant factions do exist. It's inspired by Wahhabi ideology and fed with Saudi money, and also covertly supported by Western secret services. And this policy of supporting militant extremist Islamic groups, as long as it serves geopolitical interests, and fighting secular independent governments in the Middle East, or direct military intervention and war crimes, impoverishing of the whole region and so on, certainly this leads to increase of Islamic militant movements, which is then also can turn out to be a threat to U.S. citizens, as we just saw.
Now, we know it's the first death of a high-profile U.S. diplomat on duty abroad since 1979. Could this killing affect future policy-making in the State Department, do you think?
The US official propaganda has a very cynical term when it comes to civilian deaths while during any bombing campaign. We hear that in Yugoslavia, Iraq, and so on, Afghanistan. It's called collateral damage. And of course, they wouldn't use this term when it comes to the death of a US citizen, not to talk about a US ambassador. But I think in the mindset of the U.S. establishment, in a certain way, this also was a collateral damage, because it won't make them stop from their policy of balkanization of the Middle East, even if it threatens the life of American citizens.
Right, let's leave it right there. Thank you very much, Benjamin Schett, an independent global affairs researcher, live from Montreal.